Call me. How's it been, buddy? How's the emotional roller coaster been the last week, fella?
Oh, I tell you what. Yeah. I mean, this isn't all just about me. This is, I ended up being kind of the spouting for a lot of guys. But yeah, I knew about some of this information like 6 weeks ago. But like one of the best things I did was keep it to myself. I had tweets loaded up, like ready to fire this stuff out. But I'm glad I didn't do it because at the end of the day, I think I'm viewed as like sour grapes, just ranting and raving about Babs for the last 8 years. So nobody would have listened to me. But I woke up, I guess it would have been a week ago, Tuesday morning, to a bunch of messages, been like, did you hear about this? And with Biz coming out with that, with the photo stuff. And yeah, I mean, I was happy to pile on. There's no doubt about it. I think the best way to put it would be justice has been served. Finally, there's a lot of people in the hockey world that are smiling. I've got, I don't know how many messages. The hockey world's a better place without Babs in it. He's a predator. He's a scumbag. He's been covered for and lied for. He's been lying to people, covered for, however you want to word it, for decades. And finally, he got exactly what he deserved on Sunday.
Call me, and listen, you have every right to fucking hate Babs because like I said, I went through it in Hartley on the same kind of thing that you went through. And when they make it personal, you deserve to fucking hate them. But listen, Babs came on the power play with Cooley at the end of the season, and I got to be honest, call me. I drank the Kool-Aid a little bit. I'm like, I think this guy's learned.
Sure.
Put your hatred aside and how big. Are you a little surprised that he's still, like, after everything he's been through, are you shocked a little bit that he didn't learn his fucking lesson and he still came into C-Bus and tried to do this thing, or are you just not surprised because that's who he is?
I'm not surprised at all. I get why you start drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. Look, Babs he's a narcissistic sociopath, but Babs isn't dumb. And so he's going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm personally not shocked. Like, if he's been doing this for years, and anybody who's had anything to do with him knows it, like, or this kind of stuff. I mean, airplay didn't exist 15 years ago, but it's not surprising. Like, if you go through, like, when he got canned in Toronto, for instance, I kind of, whatever, a little bit of vindication, and then he went silent, and then he started, like, after a few months, he started kind of his Rehab My Image tour and was going on podcasts. So I was going to start lighting him up again. Then I started reading. I started reading like what he was saying. I can't listen to the guy; makes me sick. But I'm reading some of his quotes, and if you read what his responses, like, he never took accountability for anything. He, in his mind, in Toronto, he was the victim. So why is he going to change if he never thought he's never done anything wrong in his life? So it is not surprising. I mean, and I found this out in the last week. Like, the ink on his contract, July 1st, would have barely dried. I don't know when Blue Jackets development camp started, but it would have been within a day or two. And I know he was going through, for sure, 3 young players' phones within days of signing. So he's going to run his mouth. Oh, I've changed. Oh, I'm working with a mental health expert from Ohio State. Bullshit. I mean, it's all horse shit. So I'm not shocked. But in my wildest, I mean, I did personally, I wanted it to be a disaster. In my wildest dreams, I think this guy wasn't even going to make it to training camp. I mean, all you got to do is literally do nothing.
Yeah.
And he'll get to training camp. And he couldn't help himself.
Yeah.
End of story, he couldn't help himself.
Updog, what if we would have grabbed your phone back in the day? Say, let me have a phone.
Well, that was our conversation last week, Commie. Obi's like, I'm like, what if he really did go through these phones? Like, Biz wouldn't just say this stuff. And Obes is like, I'd just tell him to fuck off. There's no way you're looking through my phone. I'd be like, well, it depends how he asks. Like, if he wants to see some, wants to see some girls on there or something, just whatever, let me know. I'll probably be open with you like my teammate. But when I think of you, Commie, I think Columbus Blue Jackets. You won a cup in Carolina. You're a spokesperson for Calgary, but you loved your time in Columbus. When all this went down, it's been a minute since we had you on. When all this went down, bringing Babs in, like, were you not texting guys in and around the team, or like, who's letting this happen? Like, he hasn't changed. He's not going to change. You guys have a good young team. What your first impression of this whole thing, bringing him in to now, what has that been like for you? And have you not talked to guys on that, like, in the war room of that team, being like, who's making the decisions here? Because now it falls on them.
Yeah, big time. I mean, first off, like whenever I do like alumni things and little hot stoves, and what was your favorite place comes up, like where'd you like to play? And I enjoyed everywhere, but if I had to pick one personally for me, it was Columbus. I loved playing there. I had a good setup there for the only time in my career where I owned the place in town. So I really enjoyed it, and I do have a soft spot for the Blue Jackets. When all this went down and they hired him, I'm not surprised that Babs got another chance. I figured that was going to happen. I guess I shouldn't have been shocked it was the Blue Jackets. When it did go down, I got some buddies that are in the organization, and I didn't want to come out hot and just roast them via text message. I was like, seriously? What are you guys thinking? And it was kind of a little bit of a response, but not really. But you're sitting there, first off, let's get one thing super clear, because this is getting a little misconstrued on the internet. And you got some guys, not very many, but Patrick Marlowe back in Babs last week and stuff. Mike Babcock wasn't fired or resigned or whatever because he was having meetings with people and being like, hey, you have a family? Can I see a picture of your kids? I'd like, I'm doing a team collage. I want to put a collage together for team building. That's not what he got fucking fired for. He got canned or resigned because he was doing one of two things. It was either the player was coming into his office and it was straight up, give me your phone, what's the code? And he's just going through the phone, going through the camera roll. Or option two, the player would come in, hey, you got your phone on you? Yeah, I do. Unlock it. Unlock it and click AirPlay. So now your phone's up on the TV. Open up your camera rolls and scroll till I tell you to stop. That's why you got canned. And you get some pushback on that too. And my best response would be let's say I'm a 7th round pick to the Columbus Blue Jackets last year, and I'm coming into development camp July 2nd, whenever it started. I have a meeting with Babs. This is my first. I'm a young kid. This is an NHL development camp. You got Mike Babcock, head coach. This guy's in charge. He's got a lot of power on how your career is going to get off to, what kind of start it's going to be. And let's say he grabs my phone and starts going through it. Well, what if I'm gay? And I haven't told my parents.
Yeah.
I haven't told my teammates. Nobody knows. And now I'm sitting there and Mike Babcock's looking at a picture of me holding my boyfriend's hand or kissing my boyfriend or whatever. That is an atrocity, and that could lead to a very, very tragic ending. So there is no defense for what he did, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion. And it is, I'll tell you what, I'm back to being a big Blue Jacket fan now that they got rid of him. For the life of me, I watched some of the press conference yesterday, 8 minutes of it, with Yarmo and JD, who, by all accounts, I've heard are nice guys. I think I've met both of them briefly. I was shit-faced last year, I think, when I met Yarmo's Nashville jersey retirement. I don't remember a whole lot, but they're nice guys. But they're sitting there, and it's Yarmo, one of his quotes was, Babs did the same photo thing to me. I wasn't uncomfortable. And I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, oh, really, Yarmo? You're telling me the first time Mike Babcock, you met him, and he's interviewing for the job, he told you to take your phone out and start scrolling through your pictures? I mean, how stupid do you think we are? And then his other quote was I really believe Mike Babcock had no ill intentions. Dude, he had no good intentions. Stop it. And I just don't get why, they're still kind of covering. It's dude, you gave this guy a chance. And a lot of people don't think he deserved it, but you gave him a chance. And the ink didn't even dry on his contract, and he started putting your job in jeopardy. And now, I'll tell you what, those two better hope the Blue Jackets make the playoffs and win a round, or they're going to be gonzo too, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry.
No,
that was a long-winded.
No, that was
fine. That's fine. That's fine, Tommy. And Uppy brought up, about JD and Yarmo, the president and the GM, and asking if there should be more digging on them. And call me when it came to me, it happened last week, and I was talking to Uppy about it. And then, Jenner and Johnny Hockey come out with their statement of, it wasn't that, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. I just wanted to get to know my family. If the owner and GM went to those boys and said, boys, you guys have to make this statement to sweep this under the rug, I think there's bigger problems than Commie. If they went and said to them and said, hey, because it doesn't make sense to me why they went out and said it, and then all of a sudden the truth comes out. Do you think maybe that's what happened, or what do you think in that aspect?
Man, I think there's a couple of things that could have happened. I don't know for sure. I'll be the first one to say that. But I mean, I do think Boone Jenner got put in a tough spot. And I do think it was that I'll just put it like this. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Yarmo and JD or whatever came to those guys and like, hey, we need to protect the organization.
Yeah.
Get a hold of Gaudreau. He's at that media, wherever the hell that was in Toronto or whatever. Like, we have to protect the organization. And that, like you just said, that case, if that's what happened, that's terrible.
That's terrible.
Because although Boone Jenner is, got put in a tough spot for sure, if going through his phone and if he knew this stuff was going on, and I don't want to speak for him, I don't really know him, but I think he had a pretty good idea. If he covered for it, yes, you were put in a tough spot, but you're the captain of that team. You're in a position of leadership. You have an opportunity there to like actually be a leader. And if you just lied for it to kind of protect the organization and, you could make the argument to protect yourself, like, why are you lying to this guy? If you know this stuff is going on, what are you looking for more minutes on the power play?
Yeah.
Like, you did something pretty selfish, and you didn't really care about the younger guys or whoever it was happening to. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. If that actually went on, that's not good at all.
Yeah, and then, sorry, I'm so good. That's the old school mentality of hockey, right? Got to protect the organization. Let's keep it in house. We'll get it figured out. Well, no, that's not the world we live in anymore. Like, if this is going on, and it was proven that it was, if the GM and president said that to those boys, first of all, shame on Jenner for doing that. If you're the leader, you got to be like, no, I'm not doing it. But that's the old scam mentality up either. Yeah. That's not great.
Yeah, we're not going to sit around and say, like, we never dealt with this before with coaches, right? Like, we've all had situations as younger players, even coming up through minor hockey, where you get tested, and you get tested again, and then do you speak up for yourself? Do you speak up for your teammates? You have all these opportunities to it. Now, this just is Mike Babcock, and it happens over and over again. But, Commie, let me ask you what you thought about the way the NHLPA handled this situation, right? Like, all the stuff that we're speculating right now, and maybe we're not speculating at all. Maybe we are touching on what happened, but call it speculation. The NHLPA steps up. They go and investigate. To me, this stuff has happened so much with Mike Babcock. How come this is the first time the NHLPA has actually stepped in and said, whoa, we're going in and we're going to investigate this? Like, when I think back of Johan Franzen and the shit that went on and the stuff that you might know about more than us, and what's led him to have, mental health issues and all this stuff that you read about, the NHLPA needs to step up and do this more when something gets brought to their attention, I think. And I think they handled it. Yeah. I think they handled it well this time. And we're going to, I think this investigation is going to shine light on everything that went on around this situation. But your thoughts on that exact, situation that the PA stepped in and handled?
Well, I think it kind of went in two kind of phases, sort of. I think at the end of the day, I think the NHLPA did a good job. Marty Walsh and Ron Hainsey, they went in there and they actually, I guess from all accounts that I've heard, actually ran a real investigation and did something about it. I will say also, though, I do think the first, right when Biz broke the, hey, this is going on, this and that, I think they kind of went immediately. I think they went to their little kind of old ways where I think there was pushback from the PA on Biz and Witt to like, well, this isn't true. The Blue Jackets didn't tell me it's true. And I give Biz especially, but Witt too, I give him full marks because when there was pushback from the Blue Jackets, when there was pushback from Babs, I think there was some pushback from the PA on this not being true. Biz didn't back off. He like doubled down and tripled down because he knew he was right. And I give him full marks for that because it would have been real easy to back off. I got to be honest, when I saw him double and triple and count, I was fist bumping in here because I'm like, this is perfect because now, I mean, he's got a big following. I mean, people pay attention to Biz and he's not backing off. So they're going to have to pay attention. So at the end of the day, I'll give the PA full marks, like good job. But I do think at the beginning it was, well, let's just try and get rid of this. But they wised up and took care of business. And so at the end of the day, good for them. That answers your question.
Yeah, I agree. And moving forward for the PA, I think it's good for, the other 31 teams, right? If you're a young guy now and something happens to an organization, I feel like Commie, I'm just thinking if it was me, I would feel more comfortable going to the union now and calling them, being like, hey, Marty or Hainsey, listen, this is what's going on. I think in the bigger picture, it's great for the NHLPA and the players, Commie.
Yeah, I think so too. And like one thing to kind of get straight, because it kind of comes out a little bit online, where like, oh, the players are soft. This is, they just can't take a hard old school coach anymore. That's bullshit. Like look, I hate Babs. I think Babs is a scumbag. I enjoyed hard, like old school hard coaches who would tell me, hey, you got to be better. You're playing like a pussy. Like that would give it to me. I enjoyed that. There's a big difference between that and what Mike Babcock's doing. Going through somebody's personal cell phone and putting it on airplay, and that is completely different than like a hard old school coach. You can be hard on people and still show them like an ounce of fucking dignity and respect. And I think that's another kind of way that's just gone a little bit with some people. And it's like, man, I think there is a massive difference. I still think there's a place in the NHL for like coaches that are hard. Like, yeah, be hard on the guy in practice. Be hard on the guy in game. Be hard on the guy hockey related and him being a professional. Don't be going through his cell phone. I mean, it's not that hard. Seriously.